מראש האילנות נסתלקה, בוא ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה, בוא ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה. הנה היא יורדת, יורדת הקדושה, הנה היא יורדת, יורדת הקדושה. המה מראש האילנות נסתלקה, בוא ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה, בוא ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Now, unlike some very traditional synagogues where their beginning of Shabbat is actually tied to when the sun goes down, here at Central Synagogue Shabbat, we always bring in Shabbat at 6 p.m. And so it feels different in different seasons, but after daylight savings time, it is definitively dark when we come in to Shabbat now, and that really does change the mood than walking in when it's light outside, and you really do feel a sense of the change of seasons and Shabbat descending. But no matter what it looks like outside, I always appreciate that when I come in here, it feels filled with light. It feels filled with light because we're soon going to light Shabbat candles, but it feels filled with light also because it's beautifully lit. But really from the light that comes from the energy of this community, which it has been so beautiful to watch it kind of grow back to where we used to be with just so many faces in the congregation. So it's a pleasure to be with you all here. I want to introduce those of us who are up here because we have some faces that we don't see all the time. I'm Rabbi Angela Bookdahl, joined by Cantor Dan Mutlu, our cantorial intern Jenna McMillan, Rabbi Dan Ross, and our rabbinic intern Chelsea McLeod. Did I say your last name? Fuchs. Why did I say that? Chelsea Fuchs. Thank you. Chelsea just gave... Yes, exactly. Chelsea just gave her senior sermon this week, and it was really amazing and excellent. I want to name on our Bima two amazing members, and Susie Stern, who's also on our board, and Jeff Stern, her husband, and our president, Shani Silverberg. And thank our musicians who are joining us, and also make a greeting to all of you who are watching us from live stream or Facebook or JBS and say Shabbat Shalom to you. We are really wonderful to have you. I don't know if our guests from Temple B'nai Or in New Jersey are here. Are you here? Yay, we welcome you and say Shabbat Shalom. And we have not guests, but our very own confirmation class here tonight. And we want to say Shabbat Shalom to you. It's so awesome to see you having your kind of adapted confirmation retreat. Here you get to come to services. But you know, it makes us happy to see you, and I hope you'll enjoy Shabbat with us. And as we bring in more of this light, as we feel the darkness descend on us outside, as we are in that dark part of the season of the year, I want to invite up our candlelighters, Kara Cohen, Karen Fallis, Zachary Fallis, Caitlin Tablata, and two other young Benot Mitzvah from a year ago who didn't get to have their Ark blessing for their Bat Mitzvah last year, so we are bringing them back on their anniversary, Natalie Brenner and Hannah Crystal. So if you can come up and help us light candles.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu
we bring in these beautiful lights, we'll bring in more warmth with songs of Kabbalat Shabbat, beginning with Mizmor Shir. The song can be found on your order of service. Mizmor Shir liyom HaShabbat, Mizmor Shir liyom HaShabbat, Tov lehodod l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha ha'elyon, lehagid b'boker chesdecha, ve'emunatcha b'leilot, ale asor v'ale navel, ale higayon v'chino, lehagid b'boker chesdecha, ve'emunatcha b'leilot, ale asor v'ale navel, ale higayon v'chino. Mizmor Shir liyom HaShabbat, Mizmor Shir liyom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ולזמר שמחה עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור, Zamru Ladonai takes us a little higher. You can find that on your order of service as well.
זמרו לאדוני, זמרו לאדוני בכינור. יאי לי לי לי, לי 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 לי, לי לי זמרו לאדוני בכינור, בכינור בקול זמרה, בחצוצרות בקול שופר, הריעו לפני המלך
The Sabbath bride arrives even in the darkness. We're going to turn to Lachadodi, page 20 and 21, doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we get to that last verse, we're going to greet Shabbat with our whole being. And if you're comfortable, we invite you to rise and face the doorway as we greet the Sabbath bride. We're doing a melody that I haven't done in a long time, but Cantor Mutlu says he's done it frequently. But he said of it when we were rehearsing, this one is so Ashkenazi it hurts.
You'll remember
you'll
it
feel
somewhere
it.
way back.
Yes.
You'll remember it. Ay, 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 lecha dodi. Ay, 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 likrat.
Do you feel the pain?
Ay, 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 penei Shabbat. Ay, ay, ay,
And the joy too.
lekabela. Ay, 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 lecha dodi. Ay, 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 likrat kala. Ay, 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 penei Shabbat. Ay, 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 lekabela.
שחור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, שמו תפארת ואלי תהילה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת, איי 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 נקבלה.
לקראת שבת לכל בנך, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשי במחשבתי לה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת, איי 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 נקבלה.
התעוררי, התעוררי,
התעוררי.
כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת, איי 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 נקבלה.
בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה, אומץ עולה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת, איי 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 נקבלה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת, איי 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 נקבלה.
Whether you are up in body or in spirit, I ask you to remain that way as we turn to page 146 for our call to worship the Baruch Hu.
Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai yai lai 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 lai. Baruchu et Adonai hamevor
Please be seated. We continue in Hebrew on page 148. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, bechokma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna meshanei itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei hoshech, v'hoshech mipnei or.
ומעביר יום ומים ולילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו, לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה
We read together in English at the bottom of page 150. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. You are my strength, and you are my song. You have become my liberation. Liberation. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. You are my strength, and you are my song. You have become my liberation. You are my strength, and you are my song. You have become my liberation. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha tedava kodesh. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. These are the opening words of our Hashkivenu prayer, and I can only imagine how fervently my great-grandfather prayed for such protection on November 9th, 1938, Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. He was still waiting for his documentation papers to come in the mail, so on the night of this pogrom, he hid in a Christian cemetery. The Jewish cemetery was desecrated, but my great-grandpa's hiding spot remained untouched. Through a series of lucky coincidences, divine miracles, or both, my great-grandpa and his immediate family were able to flee Germany 83 years ago this week. I know that many others were not so fortunate, but I give thanks that my grandfather, my pup-up, who I know is watching tonight, was able to grow up and raise his own family in a far safer place. May all of us who once knew danger help spread God's Sukkat Shalom over all those in need of protection.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom Ve'haniteinu malkeinu l'chayim U'l'shalom
Adonai Eloheinu leshalom. Adonai Eloheinu
Please rise in body or spirit for the Amidah, beginning on page 155.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ulfi agit tehillatcha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei HaKol, ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיים מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue now silently with the prayers of our hearts.
Say shalom be
In this week's Torah portion, Vayetze, we find our ancestor Jacob weary from his long journey from Beersheba to Haran, and he arrives at a well. And at this well, he sees that it is covered by a giant stone that required many, many shepherds to move it. And he learned that this well would only be opened when all of the sheep were brought in for water. And then Jacob sees Rachel, the woman who would become one of his 2 wives, bringing in her flock to drink. And filled with love for her, he summons impossible strength and pushes that rock himself to water her flock. The story of Jacob and Rachel at the well shows us the power that the simple presence of our loved ones can bring for us, especially when we are worn out from long journeys with pain and illness. And so this evening, with our Misha Berach prayer, we offer that presence to those in our midst and in our hearts who are in need of healing of mind, body, or spirit, with hopes that our words will renew their strength. This evening, the Central Synagogue community is praying for the healing of Kathy Barron, Chanalea Batsara, Eileen Berger, Simcha Ben Sara, Donald Brief, Susan Brown, Jerry Calderon, Lou Chen, Monica Corton, Frank Elbling, Corey Flom, Sander Flom, Jerry Friedman, Howard Hochberg, Eileen Huber, the James family, Barbara Johnson, Karen Koppel-Kaunitz, Melissa Kaufman, Samuel Kirsch, Erwin Merkatz, Cordelia Miras, Kurt Pliskin, Penina Bat Mordechai Verachel, Marty Reingold, Sandy Schupper, Candace Smilo, Bill Smith, the Sterling family, Ann Stutchner, and Richard Zorn.
Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim. Mi sheberach avoteinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim.
And we know that there are also those many reasons that we are joyous, that give us that impossible strength. And so what I'm going to do right now, as you all know, is list some of those reasons and invite those of you to whom they apply to rise and remain standing. So if you are becoming B'nai Mitzvah tomorrow, Caroline or Brandon, or if you're celebrating with our B'nai Mitzvah, we invite you to rise. Please, yeah. Mazel tov. Give everybody a wave. And if you are celebrating a birthday or an anniversary in this week or the week to come, please rise. Happy birthday, happy anniversary, or birthday, or awesome. If you welcomed a new life into your family this week via wedding or birth or adoption, or perhaps you're here to celebrate that new addition's Hebrew name, we invite you to rise. I know we have a baby naming tonight. Somewhere. If you are in our confirmation class, please rise. Or in another confirmation class, joining us as guests, please rise. If you are so excited that children between the ages of 5 and 11 can get vaccinated, or if you saw a Band-Aid or helped somebody get that, yes, please rise. If you ran the New York City Marathon, or saw someone running the marathon, or gave somebody food who ran the marathon, please rise.
And if you're just happy to be here on this Friday night to celebrate Shabbat, please rise for a blessing of gratitude.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
So we're going to invite you to remain standing. As Rabbi Ross said, we have somebody who will be named tonight. Will Lilibeth Cohen please come to the bima and bring your parents too, Felix and Matthew, so we could formally welcome you to the congregation and give you your Hebrew name tonight on this bima. All right, we're in perfect position now. Lilibeth, we are completely overjoyed to welcome you here on the bima tonight. And I want you to think about this for a second. This, just pay attention, okay? This is your first big Jewish milestone on this bima. Just think of the things that could happen here. Your bat mitzvah, right? Your wedding. And, you know, we're not going to put that much pressure on you because we haven't even named you yet, so let's get to that. Tonight, your parents give you this Hebrew name, Leah. Leah, it sounded like you almost said it, which is so beautifully connected to three of your great-grandmothers, three strong women in your family. On your dad Felix's side, his grandmothers Tamara and Lisa, and on your dad Matthew's side, his grandmother Susan. From Tamara, you receive a spirit of service, community, and family. She could talk to anyone, and she was a really great cook. And from Lisa, you receive her elegance, her etiquette, and strength. She supported her family and made sure everything was in its right place. And from Susan, you receive her personality, her style, and grace. She was always welcoming and kind, and whenever she walked into a room, she made it vibrant. Lilibeth, you are your parents' first baby, but you're truly a miracle, a blessing. And Felix and Matthew, I know how long it took to get to this moment, and it was a road that began many, many months ago. But on Yom Kippur last year, while the two of you were praying for a better year ahead, for a year filled with blessing, on Yom Kippur, Lilibeth was conceived, and the promise of a year filled with hope and joy all of a sudden became a reality. In that moment, Lilibeth chose both of you as fathers, as parents, and as family. And I know that in this moment, as Lilibeth receives her Hebrew name Leah, that your grandmothers, Tamara, Lisa, and Susan, are all here. They're watching over you, and they're celebrating with us tonight. So in giving you this name, Lilibeth, your parents are linking your great-grandmother's spirits with yours, so every time you laugh, every time you smile, every time you do good in this world, a little bit of their goodness comes out along with that. So we'd like to give you our tradition's most ancient blessing, Lilibeth, so that it may go well for you on this day and for many, many years to come. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and protect you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's face shine unto you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. Shalom. May God lift up God's face to you and grant you everything you wish for in your life, a lifetime of hope and joy and celebration, and most importantly, a life of peace. Amen.
Please be seated. Well, that is a tough act to follow. So, this week's Torah portion, Vayetze, picks up right where last week's left off. Fresh off his daytime Emmy Award-winning performance as Esau, we find Jacob fleeing his older brother's dreams of fratricide. And at the insistence of his mother, Rebekah, he departs for Haran, home of Rebekah's brother, Laban. Thus, our parsha begins with this plain verse: Vayetze Yaakov mi Beer Sheva, vayelech Harana. And Jacob left Beersheba and went to Haran. Seems simple enough until we think a little bit about what's missing here. Consider for a moment. When Jacob's mother, Rebekah, came from Haran to marry Isaac, she rode camelback with a retinue of Abraham's servants. When Abraham and Sarah started their sojourn in Canaan, they went forth with Lot and a massive caravan. But, in notable contrast, Jacob leaves home with no companions and no mode of transportation other than his own 2 feet. And he's not just going for a walk around the block. I looked up walking directions from Beersheba to Haran on Google Maps. You can do that. And it's 544 miles through the heart of the Middle East. This passage sounds so preposterous that according to one midrash, the only way it was possible was if the earth miraculously contracted for Jacob like an accordion. But the Torah tells us that Jacob did, in fact, walk. Because if we go back to the Parsha's first verse, Jacob left Beersheba, Vayelech Harana, and went to Haran. We see in this verse that the Hebrew verb Vayelech means went, but it can also mean more specifically to walk. The text is clear. Jacob walked all the way to Haran, which begs the question. What happened to Jacob on those 1.1 million steps? After all, when we met him in last week's Parsha, the Torah described him as an Ish Tam Yoshev Ohalim, a quiet man who stayed inside. One might imagine that 500 miles of mountains and valleys and forests and deserts would be just a little bit beyond his comfort zone. In her magnificent book, Wanderlust, A History of Walking, Rebecca Solnit observes that like Jacob before his journey, many of us today live in tents, in a series of interiors, home, car, gym, office, shops, disconnected from each other. But when we are on foot, everything stays connected. For while walking, one occupies the spaces between those interiors. One lives in the whole world. Furthermore, Solnit writes that she likes walking because it's slow. And she thinks that the mind, like the feet, work at about 3 miles per hour. So on his way from Beersheba to Haran, Jacob has 181 hours and 20 minutes, just over 7.5 days to do nothing but walk and think and walk, to see connections in God's creation, to occupy the space between tents, to live in the whole world. Let's try to imagine what might be going through his head. Check out that cave. My grandparents are buried in a cave. Oh, a deer. My brother likes to hunt deer. Now he's hunting me. If I look at that rock just so I can see my dad's face, that tree looks like a tent. I miss my mom. Have I failed my family? Am I a good person? What am I going to do now? Traversing the oft-treacherous landscape of the wilderness and the mind, Jacob's lonely journey within and without transforms the way he sees himself and the world. Is it any wonder that it is on a fateful night in the middle of this passage that he should dream his famous dream of a ladder between heaven and earth? That he should hear God's voice invoke Abraham and Isaac and feel himself fortified by the memory of his ancestors? That he should wake with the epiphany. Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh ve'anochi lo yadati. Truly, Adonai, God, is in this place, and I did not know it. So many of us have been in Jacob's shoes, be they sandals on the beach or hiking boots on a mountain, moments of imminence and transcendence, moments we've lived in the whole world, even though we're just moving through a small slice of it. And what does Jacob do after this most sublime of experiences? Vayisa Yaakov raglav ve'elech. And Jacob lifted his feet and walked. On to the next one. So, what are we supposed to do now? We could say, let's take a Shabbos walk tomorrow. That sounds lovely. But I'd like to invite you to walk with me one step farther. Because the word vayelech, to walk, has another essential meaning in Judaism. It comes from the same roots as halakha, the general term for Jewish law, but which literally means walking. As Jewish law, halakha is a lot of things. It's how-to guides for Jewish holidays, it's the rules of kashrut, it's guidelines for basic decency, and so much more. But mostly, I like to think of halakha as Judaism's answer to the question, how do I live a good life? Halakha is the Jewish way to walk in the world, revealed through generations upon generations of our ancestors' wisdom. It is the path of spiritual practices paved by our people. In Wanderlust, Rebecca Solnit writes that a path is a prior interpretation of the best way to traverse a landscape. And to follow a path is to accept that interpretation. To walk the same way is to reiterate something deep. To move through the same space in the same way is a means of thinking the same thoughts as those who came before us. What were our great-grandparents thinking when they lit the Shabbat candles? What were our grandparents thinking when they heard the call of the shofar? What was my mom thinking when she stopped eating pork and shellfish? Will our children love their neighbors as themselves? The answer to these questions is simple. What do we think when we do these things? It's the same. Now, I'm not saying we should go whole hog halakha, but in case there was any doubt, a whole hog is not kosher. What I am saying is that what's true of walking in general is true of halakha, of walking the Jewish way. The world slows down. We see the things in between. We experience connections across time and space, hundreds of miles, thousands of years, miraculously contracted in an instant inside of us. And as we learn in this week's Torah portion, when we follow the footsteps of those who came before us, whether we're walking in the wilderness or walking in their ways, we may discover God in places we never expected. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
So tonight is a pretty exciting Shabbat. Not only did we get to name the most adorable baby ever, but we're going to read Torah tonight, and we have not read Torah in a while, so this is very exciting. You can find... Was that applause for Torah? That's good. You can find under your seats or in the back of your seat the Torah Commentary to follow along with us. We're on page 195, and we'll be reading from Genesis chapter 28, verse 20 through 29, verse 1. And we're going to call up our confirmation class for the honor of the Aliyah. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayidar Yaakov neder lemor im yeh Elohim עמדי, ושמרני בדרך הזה, אשר אנוכי הולך, ונתן לי לחם לאכול ובגד ללבוש. ושבתי ושלום אל בית אבי. והיה אדוני לי לאלוהים, והאבן הזאת אשר שמתי מצבה יהיה בית אלוהים, וכל אשר תיתן לי אעשרנו לך. וישא יעקב רגליו, וילך ארצה ונקדם.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Well, I have to say that you did us proud, remembering this 3 years after your bar mitzvah very well. But most of all, just to see you here and to see the vibrancy of our confirmation class makes all of us feel very proud and hopeful for our future. So thank you and enjoy your retreat. Invite the congregation to please rise.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד.
Please be seated. יתגדל ויתקדש Most importantly, love. Like it's the only thing you know how. At the end of the day, all this means nothing. This page, where you're sitting, your degree, your job, the money, nothing even matters except love and human connection, who you loved and how deeply you loved them, how you touched people around you, and how much you gave them. In this moment of memory, we call to mind people from our Central Synagogue community who've died in recent days. Stanley Epstein, husband of Sylvia, father of Joel, Debbie, and Susan. Howard Gottfried, husband of Sandra, father of Ian and Todd. Mickey Granick, father of Lisa. Muriel Klarsfeld, mother of Barbara and Cheryl. Sylvia Phillips, mother of Arnold. Betsy Plevin, wife of Kenneth, mother of Bill and Steve, and brother of Stephen Barish. Bernard Roy, father of Dylan. Andy Stern. Susan Wilson, partner of John, mother of Corey and Craig, sister of Linda and William. There are no deaths from our armed services in this past week, I'm happy to report, and I share a few names of those who've died in just this last week in mass shootings in our country. Darzell Washington, 29, Angela Michelle Monclova, 40, and Diane Atkins, 66. And we recall those whose death occurred at this season as we marked their yard site. Jack Abramsky, Bernice Abramson, Retha Altman, Deidre Bader, Sylvia Bernard, Eunice Bernard Shapiro, Harriet Bernstein, Carlo Breidenbach, Erwin Brodsky, Dutch Cohen, Frida Kosman, Reuben Dick, Jerome Etter, Linda Emery, Les Feinglass, Miguel Ferber, Michelle Flom, Meyer Galpern, Myrna Adirth Gelfman, Jessica Glick, Selma Goldstein, Alan Greditor, Gertrude Greenberg, Daniel Heller, Minette Hirsch, Pearl Hoffman, I. Lewis Hoffman, Howard Endersky, Celia Kay, Gustav Klein, Jack Kleinman, Joan Kornman, Stuart Kostrinsky, Frida Krell, Mark Leff, Gertrude Lehman, Herbert Lehman, Bernice Levittown, Jack Levine, Robert Levinson, Hilda Levitan, Joseph Luria, Richard Maidman, Brian Joseph McLaughlin, Earl Mervis, Burton Morachnik, Florence Murtiche, Mo Moskowitz, Pauline Oppenheim, Bertrice Orfinger, Paul Osker, Ralph Pywanski, Sharon Pekin, Joseph Perlmutter, Millie Perlmutter, Gregorio Podoroysky, Robert Reich, Jenny Rosenberg, Harry Rothkopf, Jane Nathan Rothschild, Milton Rubian, Jesse Saphir, Herb Saltzman, S. Morton Schloss, Irving Schneider, Marilyn Schreibman, David Schwartz, Sonia Shabison, Rose Schenk, Bernard Shapiro, Jacob Schulklapper, Jerry Spiegel, Jesse Stitzer, Bertha Sucherman, David Taub, Dorothy Reinreich, Milton Weller, Eleanor Jane Wall, Ira Wolf, Sidney Wolfman, Honey Wolosoff, Milton Youngwood, Saul Zallen, Herman Ziegler. And those that you might bring to this moment of memory. If you are in the first 7 days, a Shiva of mourning a loved one, I invite you to please rise. If you are in Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning a loved one, I invite you to rise. If you're in the first year of mourning a loved one, I invite you to rise. And if you're marking a yard site this evening, I invite you to rise. You honor your loved one's memory. We rise with you as a community of fellowship and comfort as we join together on page 294 in Kadisha Tome, our Mourner's Kaddish. Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei Rabbah v'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chaye echon v'yom echon v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael v'agala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mavarach Leolam Ulolmei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushvachata v'nechamata. Ta'amiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya.
וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויראו.
Oseh shalom v'imrumav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen.
יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
My name is Zachary Fallis, and I am a student at this year's confirmation class at Central Synagogue. We are so happy to see many of you back in our sanctuary. As always, you can watch our services virtually through our live stream, Facebook Live, YouTube channel, and local JBS station. We invite you to attend our MissCon service tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. here in our main sanctuary, and via live stream as well. Proof of vaccination will be required as well as wearing a mask. For a wide range of upcoming programs, events, and classes, please visit our Central Synagogue website. Immediately following tonight's service, it is our honor to call up Natalie Brenner and Hannah Crystal for a special art blessing. Mazel tov to our B'nai Mitzvah, Caroline Tablanda and my brother Brandon Fallis. Please join us on the Bima to help us lead the Kiddush and Mosi blessings. The Kiddush can be found on page 5 of our prayer books.
That was great. You can stay up if either way. Come on, you can stay up, and we'll invite all 4 of you to come up. Please join us, and please join us on page 5 as we join in the Kiddush blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. B'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehila le'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'achata ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'ratzon hinchatanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Chaim.
For the blessing, ready? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Please join us in our closing song. Cantor, do you know where it is?
It's probably in the order of service, if I have to guess, but also on page 322. Yeah, the Us, Ein Keloheinu.
Go back. Thank you. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu.
אתה הוא מלכנו, אתה הוא מושיענו. You are God. 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 You
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.